In other news, President William Ruto has called on the United States of America government to back Africa in its push for reforms in the financial architecture of multilateral lenders. Ruto, who spoke when he delivered a keynote address on democracy at the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library and Museum in Atlanta, decried the huge financial burden of debt repayment on African countries, terming it a threat to democracy.
On his first day of a four-day state visit to the United States, President William Ruto had a series of engagements. First up, an address on the subject of democracy at the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library and Museum in Atlanta.
United States, or if it's the United States to Kenya, Ambassador.
Being the African Union's champion of institutional reform, President Ruto rallied the American government to back Africa's quest for reforms in the financial architecture of multilateral lenders such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund.
Later this week, I will have the privilege to engage with members of the American Congress, and I'm happy one of them is here, to make a case for many countries in Africa, including Kenya, seeking a just international financial architecture that will afford every developing country concessionary development financing to support our economies, build resilience against the effects of climate change, drive our belief in free market economy, and energize our democratic enterprise.
He also called on America to support ongoing efforts by African leaders to restore peace and security in parts of the continent.
Kenya has been and will continue to be a leader in the search for sustainable solutions to regional and global challenges. The war in Ukraine, the conflicts in the Middle East, the fighting in Sudan, South Sudan, Eastern DRC, the Sahel, and terrorism in Somalia all demand greater collaboration and strategic global leadership.
While highlighting Kenya's democratic credentials, President Ruto revisited his election in August 2022, saying his victory was a confirmation that Kenyans had expressed their will.
We celebrate the right of every Kenyan to choose their political representatives and participate in public decisions as a fundamental principle of democratic governance. In fact, I'll give you an example. In the last election, it was particularly very interesting. There was a narrative that had been weaved that the elections will be decided by something called the deep state and the system. But believe you me, if the deep state was to decide or the system was to decide, a different person would be standing before you today as President of Kenya.
He later visited the Martin Luther King Center to lay a wreath and to pay homage to the civil rights struggle. While at the Center for Disease Control headquarters, where he elaborated Kenya's plan to transform its health sector cooperation with the US government, President Ruto witnessed the signing of 2 MOUs between the CDC and PEPFAR, geared towards the operationalization of the Kenya National Public Health Institute and developing a sustainability roadmap for Kenya's HIV program.
It is important to state simply, directly, and clearly that the US government has been our greatest ally in this sector.